this is exciting, isn't it?
Here we go, guys, in 5, 4, 3.
Here we go.
It's time for Joan Esposito. Live, local, and progressive.
Thank you for good programming. I appreciate the content and really enjoyed every moment.
It's a privilege to have you on your station and listen. It's good stuff. It's very educational.
It's time for Joan Esposito on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Hey, it is Thursday, June 18th, and I appreciate you listening. I thought maybe you might be at the grand opening of the Obama Presidential Center, which is happening as we speak. An incredible array of musicians. I just saw Bruce Springsteen and Stevie Wonder. Common is singing now. Jennifer Hudson is also supposed to be there, and a number of current and former high-profile elected officials. Kamala Harris is there. George Bush is there. Laura Bush is there. Bill Clinton is there. Hillary Clinton is there. Joe Biden is there. Jill Biden is there, to say nothing, of course, of Michelle and Barack and their two lovely daughters. Let's see, is that all the living presidents? Oh, wait, there's one missing. Yeah. The orange pumpkin isn't there. And he, of course, is not at all upset that he didn't get an invitation. So he's saying only the most gracious things about the Obama Center because, you know, he is such a gracious guy, right? 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 Oh, what do you mean no? What do you mean no? No, of course he's not a gracious guy. He has been trashing the Obama Center, and I have no doubt he will continue to be the rude rube that he always has been. Oh, by the way, John Legend is there as well. Did I mention Jennifer Hudson? Mm-hmm. And remember all of the A-list stars that performed at Donald Trump's cage match to celebrate his birthday? No, you don't, because they weren't there. So many people canceled once they realized they hadn't been invited to the actual government-sponsored celebration of our country, but they had been invited to the Donald Trump celebration of his birthday. Yeah. No. You reap what you sow. Donald has lived his whole life desperate to be in the inner circle. He really, truly has. And yet he doesn't really understand what gets people into the inner circle. He really doesn't. And he's like one of those people that if he's not invited to the party, he's going to trash the party and everybody who goes to the party. It's a stupid party. It's a stupid party. And I wouldn't have even gone if I'd have been invited. Okay. Michelle Barack spoke today. And I don't know about you, but it took me back to a time when our presidents behaved like human beings, a time when they had character, a time when they were eloquent. Oh, you know what? I'm just going to share it some with you. This is a clip from just a little while ago where former President Barack Obama talks about why the Presidential Center is located where it is, which, by the way, happens to be in Jackson Park. But listen to this.
I found my purpose here, and I fortified my faith here, and I found my community here. Friendships that would last a lifetime. And I found a girl from the South Side who has been my greatest blessing. Michelle and I, our wedding reception was over at South Shore Cultural Center. You could walk from here. Our daughters were born right down the street. This is where we bought our first home. This is where our kids took their first steps. This is where I launched my candidacy for the Illinois State Senate over at the Ramada Inn on Lakeshore Drive, serving pretzels and soda, embarking on the path that ultimately and improbably led to this day. So, for me, this center could not be anyplace else. It's an expression of thanks, an acknowledgement that so much of what I hold most dear I owe to the people of this city and the people of these surrounding neighborhoods. And it's why we designed the center not to be some lifeless mausoleum. I am too young for that. Not just a place to see Michelle's dresses, although I understand that will be the top attraction. We wanted it to be a vibrant, living celebration of community, where we can learn together and share the joys of art and music and sport and play. Because it's in those moments that we're reminded of our common humanity. And strengthen the bonds of trust that not only make our lives richer, but make our democracy stronger.
That was Barack Obama just a little bit ago speaking at the opening of the Barack Obama Presidential Center. Before Barack spoke, Michelle spoke, and she was wonderful, as she always is. Here is the last 3 minutes of her speech. Listen to this.
I want you all to make this campus a part of your lives. Be inspired by the world-class art. Check out the books from our beautiful public library and bring them back on time. Drop some beats in the recording studio, hit some corner threes at home court, hold birthday parties, jumpstart clothing drives, host citywide cleanup days here. Use this campus to show off this place we call home. This joyful place where Marion and Fraser Robinson taught their 2 kids to dream big. This hopeful place where an unknown guy with an unknown name took flight. This stubbornly optimistic place where family after family scrapes and claws and laughs and dances their way to a better tomorrow. That's what this has always been about. Barack and I have always said that this center is grounded in our stories, but it has never been about us. It's never been for us. And it's going to be here long after we're gone. So what it becomes and how it's preserved, that work has to be done by all of us, just like our democracy. And thankfully, you have shown the world what we are capable of. You've proven that a lasting legacy isn't an award or a name on a building or a number of zeros in a bank account, but the difference we make in one another's lives. It's about seeing each other and showing up for each other and carrying each other when we're weary or faltering or losing faith. That's how you build something that endures. And that's what you all have done at every twist and turn of this extraordinary journey. You have protected and proclaimed the hope that beats within the heart of this campus. You've rekindled and renewed this untamable, unpredictable, and unbreakable democracy. And I know that you all are going to astonish us even more in the months and years ahead. because you all have proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that when we truly see each other, when we strive to bring out the best in ourselves and one another, oh, there is no limit to how high we can go. Thank you all. I love you all. God bless you, and God bless this country we love.
An amazing ceremony. Michelle spoke, Barack spoke. We heard from an A-list list of musicians: Bruce Springsteen, Common, Stevie Wonder, Jennifer Hudson, John Legend. And as things were wrapping up, the cameras there are just sort of casually swaying back and forth through the crowd. Now, these weren't people sitting on the dais. These were just people sitting in the little white wooden chairs like everybody else. Tom Hanks, Rita Wilson, Steven Spielberg, Kate Capshaw, Mark Hamill, David Letterman, Conan O'Brien, and that's just the ones I've been able to spot. Yep. Donald Trump is got to be really ticked today. And I think he has said some bad things about the Obama Center, and he will continue to. But what really galls him, what really makes him just see red, is the fact that Obama attracts all these A-listers, and he cannot. By the way, did you see where the NBA champs, the New York Knicks, have declined an invitation to go to the White House? This has got to be killing him. All he has ever wanted is to be rich and accepted into the circles of the A-list. It's never happened, and it never will. And you know what? Couldn't happen to a nicer guy, that kind of snub. One thing I forgot to mention yesterday, for those of you who have been in Chicago for, a few years, maybe you grew up here, Tom Dreesen died yesterday. Tom Dreesen, who never forgot about Chicago, even when he hit the big time. Grew up and was born in South suburban Harvey. Was on television more than 500 times. 61 times on The Tonight Show. He originally, one of his earliest career moves was to team up with Tim Reed, who has himself had a heck of a career. They billed themselves as Tim and Tim. And they were one of the first interracial comedy duos. Tim Reed left to go to Los Angeles, where he eventually had success on WKRP from Cincinnati. Tom Dreesen moved out there a while later and was not only sleeping in a car, but was sleeping in a car that wasn't even his own. He was sleeping in an abandoned car. He used to go to comedy clubs on an almost daily basis and beg them to let him get on stage. According to a beautiful obituary written by Rick Cogan, there was a showbiz club, a comedy club called Showbiz. And he was able to get on stage there, and there was a whole group of young comics who really bonded. Who were they? Tom Dreesen, David Letterman, Jay Leno, Robin Williams, Gallagher, Michael Keaton, and the woman waiting tables, Deborah Winger. David Letterman told Rick Kogan, Tom was older than the rest of us, had more experience. When I showed up in LA, I didn't know a thing. Tom taught a lot of us what to worry about, what to care about. He helped find work for all of us, stuff like warming up the crowds for TV game shows. In addition to being somebody who was funny, Tom Dreesen was one of those very special people that was always, always nice and kind. He did so many benefits. It was unbelievable. He eventually met Frank Sinatra. He signed on as Sinatra's opening act and continued in that job basically until Sinatra died. He was one of the people at the funeral. He was one of the pallbearers for Frank Sinatra. He also, as part of this incredible drive to give back and help other people, Steppenwolf member Gary Sinise, Tom Dreesen helped Gary Sinise out with his charity. Gary Sinise, of course, working really hard to help those in need, especially veterans in need. Tom Dreesen was a veteran of the Navy. And Gary Sinise posted yesterday, this morning, America lost one of our great comedians and patriots, and I lost a dear friend. Tom Dreesen died at 86 years old. He was a special person, a Navy veteran with a tremendously charitable heart. When I was on television, a few times my path crossed with Tom Dreesen, and I didn't spend any excessive amount of time with him, but he was known, even by people like me who really didn't know him very well, he was known as a stand-up guy, a sweet guy, a guy that wanted to help anybody and everybody. If you have lived in Chicago for any portion of your growing up years, you know the name Tom Dreesen, because no matter how famous and successful he got, he never, ever forgot Chicago. Never, ever. He apparently had cancer that he had been fighting because there was some, I forget what, but he had some commitment in Chicago this summer. He didn't just roll over and give up. He always pushed forward. But as Rick Kogan says, Dreesen died in a California hospital after fighting cancer. He was 86 years old. I mean, David Letterman is known for kind of being cynical and cranky. And he said, I cannot say enough good things about this guy and his comedy. He's one of my oldest friends and a born storyteller, and he's got such a good heart. That's what everybody remembers about Tom Dreesen. Lots of people have success. Lots of people are funny. But Tom Dreesen was known for his heart. He opened not only for Sinatra, but Smokey Robinson, Tony Orlando, Gladys Knight, Liza Minnelli, Sammy Davis Jr., and I believe Dean Martin. But he never forgot his roots, and he never stopped being a nice guy. When I saw the news of his passing yesterday, it, there are some, you think, oh my God, lots of times when an older person dies, I mean, let's face it, I'm an older person too, but when an older person dies, your first thought is, oh my God, I thought he was already dead. Tom Dreesen, I would have told you, was probably 20 years younger than he was. He just, he was a big guy with a big personality and an even bigger heart. And he will be missed. Okay. 773-763-9278. 773-763-9278. We are going to take your calls and read your texts. I've already gotten a number of texts so far, really interesting political points that you have been making. And some of them are quite humorous. Not all of the humorous ones can be shared on the air, so you're just going to have to take my word for it. We have some news about the Iran deal. Did we call it that? Do we call it, what, a ceasefire? A lot of people are calling it an MOU, Memorandum of Understanding. And more and more is coming out about it. And it doesn't seem like it's a very good deal. I know that shocks you. I am so sorry to shock you like that. No, please don't be upset. But it seems to be a pretty darn bad deal. Before it was signed, which apparently at least Donald Trump has signed it, Lindsey Graham, you know, who you can hardly hear because his head is, well, you figured out. Lindsey Graham was a little bit cynical about this deal. This is what he said. Actually, he posted this on X. I'm pleased to hear the memorandum of understanding with Iran to allow the Strait of Hormuz to open has been agreed to. I will be watching closely the ensuing negotiations regarding Iran's nuclear program and other matters. I am somewhat concerned that Iran's view of the agreement seems different than what the American negotiating team is claiming. Under our law, any nuclear deal from Iran will be sent to Congress for review and a vote. I look forward to reviewing the final product, and I believe it is imperative that the architect of the deal, Vice President Vance, and his negotiating partners be part of the process in presenting the final deal to Congress. Congratulations to all in getting us to this point. Time will tell. Man, oh man, when your sycophant in chief, Lindsey Graham, is turning a jaundiced eye to what you are claiming is a peace deal? Bear we interesting. I got by the way, I also saw, you know, David Axelrod and Rahm Emanuel are now talking on CNN about this. There were another number of other celebrities. You know, the camera's just looking around who's sitting in the chairs at the Obama Presidential Center opening. Lots of, somebody posted, the only thing that Donald Trump has been invited to was the Epstein Circle of Evil. I just got a text from Patty. I hope you don't mind, Patty, that I'm going to read some of this. Thanks for the eulogy of Tom Dreesen. Really appreciate it. Thank you on behalf of all Chicagoland comedians. I was too afraid to start blubbering on the air yesterday. He always made time for every generation of comedian. I figured Patty probably knew him. Yeah. We really lost a good one. We are going to take a break. We're going to be back with your texts and calls right after this. Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT Willow Springs, is powered by ComEd. Visit ComEd.com/facility assessment to learn more about energy savings.
Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive. Every weekday afternoon from 2 to 5 p.m. on WCPT 820.
People are reporting who they have spotted in the crowd at the opening ceremonies for the Obama Center. Christina Aguilera apparently was there, or maybe even performed earlier. And Angela Merkel from Germany was there. If you spotted people in the crowd, let me know. And Nancy texted in to let me know I was wrong. I should have known. Tom Dolan, who owns the Knicks, remember he invited Trump to sit in his little box to watch them play, the only game they lost badly. Tom Dolan accepted Trump's invitation. And that probably means that at least some of the Knicks are going to be at the White House. Interestingly, Whoopi Goldberg on The View, you know, J.D. Vance was on The View recently pushing his book, and Whoopi Goldberg came out today and said that she wants the Knicks to go to the White House. She said, I want all those black men to stand in our house and remind all of those people, as we tried to remind the vice president, that when you try to destroy one part of history, you're destroying all of our histories. And they, as champions, not only amazing basketball players, but as people who were down and came back up. This is what this looks like, she said. So I want them to go. I want them to go, if only so kids know that nobody can keep you down if you are rising up. You know, she makes a good point. Do you think if they go that he will shake everybody's hand? Do you think he will shake the hand of any of the players, particularly the African-American players? Do you think that'll happen? I don't know. I'm sure that if they show up at the White House, it will be recorded by cameras. So we shall see. You want to place bets? My guess is that he doesn't shake either. He won't shake any player's hand, or he won't shake any player's hand who is African American. I think he'll shake Tom Dolan's hand and say what a great guy he is. And then he might make one or two comments about the players. I don't think he's going to touch them. That's just my guess. If you'd like to bet against me, I will take whatever odds you've got. Okay, we are reading your texts. We are taking your calls. I would like to get to the phone lines. Paul is on the line from Seattle. Hey, Paul.
Oh, hi, Joan. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Fine. So let me just ask you about this Iran deal and what occurred to me in the last day or so. So I think I've said before, negotiating in war is not about military might. It's about interest. Mm-hmm. So you have to negotiate what are interests. And a loser is to say to you, Joan, I don't want you to have something. I don't want you to have one of your interests. As a matter of fact, it would be a real loser for me to say, I don't want you to have something that I have a lot of. In other words, it's a real hypocritical stance for the United States to tell another nation, we don't want you to have nuclear weapons with all the nukes that we have. Because what we're saying is we're the good guys and you're the bad guys. And that's really not a starter in negotiations. So it's hypocritical to begin with. But if you're going to ask somebody not to have something, then you're going to have to give them something in return that they find as valuable. So if we were willing to give them $324 billion plus all the money that we spent on bombing them, how come all the money it's cost the United States is well north of $500 billion? Why didn't we just say to them to begin with, how much uranium you think you got there? We'd like to buy it from you. And then we give them the money and we go get it from them.
Oh, you silly
this
boy.
Guy's a deal maker. Give me a break.
Yeah. Hope springs eternal.
And then we have it. Mm-hmm. And then we know that they don't have it. If we ask them, how much do you have? Here's how much we'll give you. And by the way, to make sure that they're not pulling anything, after we make the exchange, we say, you know what? For every kilogram of uranium you can come up with, we'll give you another $10 billion. It's a gun buyback. Come on. You know?
You know, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. You know, I find it hard to believe that $300 billion is necessary to rebuild the buildings that we destroyed. My guess is that there's a lot of extra dough in there, and I wonder where that extra dough will go. I'm sure they'll call it reparations. You know how when you win a lawsuit, in addition to damages, you get money for like emotional distress?
Yeah,
I think some of that money is for their emotional distress.
Right. Well, look, here's the thing, is after what has happened with both the United States and Russia with regard to Ukraine, when Ukraine gave up their nukes in '96 after the Budapest Accords, who the hell would give up their nukes now? Because all Ukraine got was a bunch of empty promises from both Russia and the United States. Russia invaded, and we have now cast them aside. I mean, I don't think I wouldn't give up my nukes, or if I were Iran, I would be doggedly pursuing a nuclear program unless you're going to be paying me not to do it. Because otherwise we get nothing but empty promises from the United States.
Well, a lot of the political scientists I was reading said that there's a number of people, it's always been, Iran, they're crazy and, they're vicious and so they can't have a nuclear weapon because they might be crazy enough to use it. But there were a number of political science professors who said, look, they believe that if they have a nuclear weapon, nobody will mess with them. Nobody will invade them. And, just like, we may think North Korea is a bad place, but are we going to invade them when we know they have nukes and quite possibly the will to use them? No. And there's been a lot of speculation that what Iran wanted was just a guarantee that they would be left alone, that they would be a sovereign nation.
Well, and you look at that and say, in this conflict, we have nukes, Israel has nukes. I mean, you cannot really, we really go at this from a really biased point of view that they're the bad guys. And by the way, the United States is still the only country on earth that has detonated 2 nuclear weapons in war. And so I think it's actually absolutely right on to say that, no, Iran wants a nuke for security, so that they won't be messed with, and Israel is messing with them, and they have a lot more power. And by the way, here's where we get the language "weapons of mass destruction." Weapons of mass destruction is because what that means is that you have something and you're a danger because you're a bad guy. But I'll tell you what, our conventional weaponry is plenty destructive. We can destroy everything that we want to without using a nuke. So this is just. We have to start looking at the fact that we are coming across as huge hypocrites. I'd love to know what Spencer Critchley thinks about that, but never mind.
We'll have to save that one for next time. Hey, Paul, thank you so much for the call. Always great to talk with you. I want to squeeze in one more call before we go to break. Let's go to Des Plaines, where Don is on the line. Don, you have a Tom Dreesen story? Lady B, is Don there? Hey, Don, you might be muted. Can you unmute? Oh, well, you know what? Lady B, let's go to a break, and we'll see if we can get Don. We'll take him after the break if we can get him. We'll be right back after this.
Because facts matter. You're listening to WCPT 820.
Want to join the conversation?
I just wanted to thank your station for consistently reporting the facts. In a world of clickbait headlines, your station is who I trust for the real news.
Call Joan now at 773-763-9278 and join the conversation. Joan Esposito. Live, local, and progressive on Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT 820.
Apparently, we lost Don from Des Plaines. Don, if you want to call back. Lady B is ready to take your call. So in the meantime, let's go to Hoffman Estates, where Dave's on the line. Hello, Dave.
Hey, Joan. Couple things on it. With this operation, I told you in the past, I called it epic fail. So,
yeah.
And on that, last time I saw a leader get played like Trump did was when, if you look back, remember at the end of the 100-hour war, when General Schwarzkopf got played by those Iraqis when they said, can we get the helicopters and stuff like that, because they had them fly zones and whatnot, and Schwarzkopf said, yeah, okay, you can have the helicopters yet. And then the next thing, we had told the Kurds to arm themselves and we'll have your back.
Yeah.
And then the next scene we saw, it looked like a scene from the World War II stuff when the Nazis were shooting the Jews over the open trenches and stuff like that. They were executing these Kurds, that time slaughtering them. And then about 10, 12 years or so later, again, with the Kurds, and we told them, when the Turks were doing it, again, we didn't do nothing to help them, but yet they still trusted in us and that. But that's kind of reminiscent, though. It's the same thing. We told the Kurds, arm yourself, will back you up. Just like when Trump tells the Iranian, those protesters, arm yourselves and fight the IRGs, whatever. And they didn't
we'll
do
have
it,
your back.
Yeah, been used before and been betrayed before by us. But and the second thing would be about with President Obama and that. I was reading this morning. I saw a story where a petition to rename a Chicago street after the former President Barack Obama has garnered tens of thousands of signatures.
Actually, it's not the entire street, just the section that runs by Trump Tower, because people want the Trump Tower on all their letterhead, all of their communications to have to say that the Trump Tower is on Barack Hussein Obama Street.
Correct. And I do believe, I was just thinking about, to get to change that name, they should also have it in gold lettering and stuff, it'll...
Oh, my goodness.
Because you know how Obama lives in Trump's head, so he has a Obama syndrome, So
Yep, he sure does.
And lastly, with this, supposedly now with the oil getting a chance to get through, I think Trump better start refilling those emergency tanks again, because they've been saying that national emergency tanks, that they're way low.
Yeah, that's one of the things I think has motivated him, because I think people have been telling him privately that those tanks are very low, and if those tanks empty, there's nothing to fill them up again with. So
Nope. So, anywho, I just thought I'd pass those tidbits along today, and let me clear off so others can speak.
Thank you, Dave. Appreciate it. Appreciate it.
Be well.
You too. I want to quote to you part of a statement released by Congressman Brad Schneider. This is about the memorandum of understanding between the United States and Iran. I won't read the whole thing, but let me tell you how it starts. President Trump is now the first U.S. president to officially sign a surrender agreement, made even more of a disgrace by the fact that he unilaterally started this war without the support of Congress or the American people. It goes on for many more paragraphs, but I think you get the gist of it, don't you? Yeah, I think you get the gist of it. Somebody else texted in more of the people they saw in the crowd on the little white wooden chairs as the Obama Center was officially opened today. Governor Pritzker, Senator Duckworth, Senator Durbin, Congressman Mike Quigley, Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson, Congresswoman Robin Kelly. Oprah was there with Stedman, Gayle King, Pete Buttigieg, and Dave Chappelle. Somebody also texted in Brad Schneider was also there. So, it really was it was a star-studded A-list event. And I'm sure that if he finds out about the entire guest list, who was there, who performed, who spoke, Trump is going to have steam coming out of his ears. Couldn't happen to a nicer guy. Let's go to Joliet, where Rich is on the line. Rich, you have a Tom Dreesen story?
Yeah, Joan. When I was a kid, I worked busboy room service at the Harvey Holiday Inn in Harvey, and he used to come in time to time, and he'd come in and read his paper. He would meet with people and stuff like that. And I got to know him a little bit, when he would come in, and he'd come in, and I'd come around from back in the kitchen, and I go, hey Tom, Frank's in the back. He goes, I'll be right out for you. And then, and then he would sit there and laugh about it and stuff like that. And I'd have conversations. And the man was so nice,
Yeah.
He was, you could approach him, and he would always have like an open hand and everything like that. But it was so sad to hear him die,
Mm-hmm.
But,
yeah, I don't know what kind of cancer he was fighting, but that was. That was what Rick Kogan wrote, that he died in a California hospital fighting cancer. But clearly, he still thought there was hope or that he could bounce back, because I can't remember what the commitment was, but he made a commitment to appear somewhere in Chicago this summer.
Yeah, I just, the way the man was, here I am, a little kid in a busboy outfit, stuff like that. And he gave me the attention like he would give for Frank Sinatra or Sammy Davis Jr. It was really nice.
Yeah. Yep. Tom Dreesen may have been really successful and he may have been really funny, but what he will be remembered as is one of the nicest guys ever, a guy who never forgot his roots, no matter how big he got, never forgot how he suffered and wanted to help other comics and other performers get a leg up. He was the best.
Yeah, he was. He was real good.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, Joe.
Thanks for the call. I appreciate it. Let's go to Franklin Park. Al is on the line. Hey, Al, how are you?
Good afternoon, Joan. I'm doing pretty good. I was going to talk about something just a little different, but it has to do with the Middle East and peace. And I went to the Baha'i Temple in Oak Park on Sunday, and they had some speakers there from the Arabic, I'm sorry, the Abrahamic Reunion.org, and they are working on peace between Israel and Gaza, and they are based out of Florida and also working here in Chicago right now, trying to bring together people, and some of them are also are from the Middle East area and have stories from there. And it's just a great group to work with. And one of they talk about one book that was talked about, or The Future is Peace, written by someone in Israel and someone that was in the boy, I'm sorry, Joan.
That's okay. That's okay.
In Palestine, and that book is, and they came together both having someone in their family murdered from the other side, but realizing that peace is the answer, and it's all, and they are here trying to put together, bring together women, bring together youth, bring together clergy, and when I was there, it was different religions coming together at the Baha'i Temple in Oak Park, and talking with these people, trying to they're going to be working within the USA, trying to gather peace, and the stuff is all related. It's all about building community.
And Al, thank you for sharing that, because it's important to remember, that it's not just a bunch of bad stuff happening everywhere, that there are people working very hard to try to really make the world a better place. And I appreciate you reminding us of that. Thank you for the call. I want to go to Ron, who is on the line from Chicago. Hey, Ron.
Hello, yes, sir. our gas station down the street. They didn't get a copy of the memorandum on gas is selling for $5.87 a gallon.
Oh my God! Oh my God, that's painful.
And the Trump, it's very bizarre listening to Trump trying to explain why Iran should have ballistic missiles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they need these missiles because they need to protect themselves. Protect themselves from what, sir? Like invasion, like from the United States? Oh, I see.
Yeah, it's very, very hard to listen. And the Republicans are already making excuses for Trump. They're saying that he was giving poor advice, and look at all look at what Biden did in Afghanistan. That was even worse. You know, they're
yeah. Same old, huh?
Yeah, they're bailing out. All right.
Thanks so much, Ron.
All right.
Let's go to our good friend Jim, who's on the line from Chicago. Hello, Jim.
Hi, Joan. The Trump administration did not add choice of words. He said, we won't kill any more Iranians if they behave. Now, in my mind, what is the proper behavior? I mean, this is a big bang.
Good question.
I don't know if anybody's really defined it scientifically. But think about this administration. 50 immigrants have died in their prisons in the United States alone. God knows how many have died outside of the United States. They just dropped off a gal who was incapacitated and died of the elements. That's the second person they counted that died of the elements. And then this is behavior. Now, who's behaving? I'm sure the Iranian psychologists realize that this person doesn't behave in any way any civilized behavior. I mean, we bombed them first. You know, we killed 4,000 of them first.
Yeah, how long do you think it's going to take before they try to rewrite that history and somehow make it Iran's fault that we attacked them? You just know it's coming.
Well, sure, because look at the Vietnam War. We had to go through about 50 years to actually find out that was a French colony that we shouldn't have got involved with, and Iraq and so on and so forth. It takes 50 years to figure that out. But we think of this now. Who's civilized in this? Look at the Epstein files. Is that civilized to treat young women like that? They use extortion and whatever kind of coercion, and Trump is up to his eyeballs in it, and they won't release it. Is that good behavior? Is it good behavior? Is it good behavior for an ex-president to have an insurrection in the Capitol? I mean, who's kidding? Who with behavior? Yeah. Apparently, they don't know what is the first thing about civilized behavior. And then killing these people in boats with no recourse to the law, just claiming that they were drug dealers. Yeah. Well, they could claim that all the time. I mean, what does that mean?
Yes, they could. Yes, they could.
They could shoot anybody they want. Anyway, Joan, behavior, though, that stuck with me. I mean, give me a break with that. I don't know what the... that's one for the ages. Anyway, Joan, thanks for taking my call.
Thank you, Jim. Appreciate that. I want to read one more text before we go to break. What a beautiful Obama opening ceremony. The music singers, the musicians, the speeches. It gave me an inspiration booster shot. I needed that, as do we all. Let's go to the news, and we will be back right after this.
The Thom Hartmann radio program provides all of the intelligence, information, and insight you'll need to win the water cooler wars. Weekdays 11 to 2 right here on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk, where facts matter. Hey Google, play WCPT.
Streaming Chicago's Progressive Talk from TuneIn.
Time for Joan Esposito. Live, local, and progressive.
Joan, as always, exceptional work from you. From, your TV days all the way up to today. You're truly exceptional, and thanks for this great show you have.
It's time for Joan Esposito on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
I am very pleased to welcome Barbara McQuaid to our airwaves. You follow her on social media. She's one of the sisters-in-law. She is constantly on cable TV trying to... what? Okay. By the way, I mentioned David Hochberg. He's coming up at 3:30. While we're worrying about that, Barbara McQuade dropped, but Lady B is going to get her back. She's got a new book out. She's one of the sisters-in-law, by the way. And I talked to Jill Wine-Banks earlier in the week and asked Jill what I should ask Barbara. She gave me some good ideas, which I will share with you in a moment. But her book, which is out now, is called The Fix: Saving America from the Corruption of a Mob-Style Government. I have a feeling it is directed at the government we are experiencing right now. How many times on this show have we compared Donald Trump to a mob boss? Because that is how he behaves. That is how he treats people. That is how he thinks clearly that he can be the toughest, the biggest, and the most effective. Apparently, he has never bothered to take a step back and look at the big picture and think to himself, this doesn't seem to be getting me where I want to go. Perhaps I should try a different approach. No. That would mean that he was capable of self-reflection, critical thinking, and honestly, I don't think really either of those things is within his grasp. So do we have her, Lady B? Okay, well, you know what? I don't want to waste any more time. So, Lady B, why don't we take a break now? That way we don't have to take a break and I can talk to Barbara straight through when we get back.
Hey, Google, play WCPT.
Streaming Chicago's Progressive Talk from TuneIn.
Now back to Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive on WCPT 820.
Lady B made a sacrifice to the internet gods, and we were able to reestablish contact with Barbara McQuade, who we are very happy to welcome to the show. She has a new book out called The Fix, and you can also hear her on the podcast Sisters-in-Law. Barbara, how are you doing today?
Oh, hi, Joan. I'm doing well. Thanks so much for having me. Sorry for my technical difficulties.
That's quite all right. They happen all the time. Jill Wine-Banks happens to be one of my good friends, and I was talking to her earlier in the week, and I said, hey, I'm talking to Barbara on Thursday. What should I ask her? And she said, surprisingly to me, well, you know, she knows a lot about sports, especially Michigan sports. And I was like, well, thank you, Jill. I hadn't even thought to ask her about sports. And so you follow the Wolverines?
I do, you know, and these days we refer to them as the national championship basketball Wolverines. But
Okay. Well, I just want you to know that I graduated from the Ohio State University.
Ooh,
and we do not look fondly upon your Wolverines. And I would like to point out that in football, the last time they came together in November of last year, Ohio State romped over the Wolverines 27-9.
Wow.
I'm just saying.
Too soon. Painful. Well, you know, it's a great rivalry, and I always root for the Big Ten. So we are rivals, but not enemies.
Yes. Well, I don't know if you know campaign strategist Peter Giangreco. He's worked with Amy Klobuchar and Gretchen Whitmer, and he is a rabid Michigan fan. And I have him on, and we have these great political discussions. And literally in the last seconds before he says goodbye, he throws out some insult to the Ohio State. And then he says goodbye and he's gone. And I don't even get a chance to answer it.
Oh, a drive-by. That's rough.
Yes. So you and Peter Giangreco have something in common if you ever run into him.
Keep it in mind.
I want to talk to you about your book. I have told this audience so many times that if you want to understand Trump's behavior, you look to how a mob boss would behave, the threats, the transactional nature. You do this for me, I do this for you. It is much easier to understand what he does and says and is going to do, if you use that kind of a model, than the model of any kind of politician that I've ever known. Why did you decide to write a book about this?
Yeah, I wanted to help the public see what I see and label it and identify it, because I think it's important to diagnose the problem before you can begin to fix it. And so, the title of the book is The Fix. It suggests, the fix is in, as you said, the way a mob boss operates with threats and extortion and coercion and deals. But the fix also refers to the solutions about how we can take our country back. And some of it is by some of the same techniques you use to take down a mob boss. They seek to separate, to isolate, to silence. And one of the fixes, I think, is using our collective power to speak out against some of the tactics that we're seeing.
In the third part of your book, How We Take It Back, you start that section off with lessons from history. Please share those with us.
I think one of the more recent episodes in history is one that features prominently with Jill Wine-Banks, and that is the Watergate episode. And one of the lessons from Watergate, I think, is that when there is significant wrongdoing by a president, you can't just let him off the hook. At the time, Gerald Ford, I'm sure, believed that it was in the national best interest to pardon Richard Nixon and turn the page. As he famously said, our long national nightmare is over. But I think it was a mistake. As a former prosecutor, I'm a believer in accountability. And, not so much to punish somebody for what they did in the past, but to look to the future and to promote deterrence and public safety. And I think the failure to hold Richard Nixon accountable in the 1970s has really created this moment we're living in right now, that there really is no consequence to a president who engages in misbehavior. So that's one. I think another parallel in our nation's history, and I talk about several, but another one that I think is important is the Gilded Age. I think we are living in a time that is very similar to that, with growing wealth disparities and, some leaders trying to stoke class warfare as a result of it, telling us that it's these immigrants or DEI that is causing us to feel that we're less well off than our parents' generation, when in fact it is national policies. At the time of the Gilded Age, of course, the robber barons were gouging consumers with monopolies and exploiting labor, child labor, using up our lands. And one of the things that led to was leadership by Theodore Roosevelt and a country that had an appetite for reform. And we saw the progressive era, which was marked by things like the passage of antitrust laws to stop these monopolies, child labor laws, food and drug safety laws, and the national park system to preserve public spaces for all people, not just the wealthy few. And so that gives me some hope that if we can harness that same spirit, perhaps it needs some leadership, maybe it can come from the people themselves, that we shouldn't stand for this kind of wealth disparity anymore. We can replicate what happened in the progressive era to enact important reforms to take back our power.
Yeah, I agree. And I've had a lot of people, both listeners and experts I've been talking to on this show, say that the sort of Democrat we need to run for president in 2028 is we need another FDR. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think we need somebody who is a charismatic leader and who has a vision. It can't just be, I'm not Trump, and it can't be someone who's just talking about the resistance. Right? Trump is going to be gone. And I also think sometimes people think we want to get things back to normal, back to what they were. We're never going back to what they were. We've got a future. We've got to embrace artificial intelligence and technology and climate change and all kinds of new challenges. And so who is going to be the person with the vision for that? And I'd like to see somebody who's very proactive in government, like an FDR or a JFK or an Obama, people who are inspiring leaders. But I think they're going to need a vision. I think they're going to need to bring together an alliance between progressives and populists, the people who voted for Donald Trump, the people who feel left behind by our current economy. And how do we do that? I think by focusing on issues of affordability. Zoran Mamdani in New York, I think, won his election because he speaks to that. Young people in particular, I think, see a world where they can't imagine buying their own homes. The average age for a new home buyer, first-time home buyer in America is now 38 years old. And so I think affordability is a really important issue. I think thinking about restoring the labor union to give labor unions the kind of power that they once enjoyed in the future, because we've got to protect the rights of workers. I think thinking about some smart ways to regulate AI without hampering innovation, and focusing on climate change, this reality that some politicians want to simply ignore. So I think a visionary leader has to have a plan that addresses all of those things.
I spoke with an official from the Biden administration. This was after Trump had been reelected to a second term, but before the Doge devastation. And this person said that, and I guess you have to try to find a silver lining where you can. One thing that Democrats need to start thinking about, okay, these departments are being gutted. They're being decimated. When Democrats take power again, he said Democrats should be thinking right now, when we put these agencies back together, how can we do it so that they are better? Do more of the good stuff, less of the bad stuff, less bureaucracy. He said we should be thinking about that kind of thing right now, because our turn is going to come. And if it's been decimated, then we have to rebuild it. So we should be thinking of how to rebuild in the best way possible right now. Do you get the sense that Democrats are thinking about things like that?
I don't know about Democrats, but I know people who care about good government are thinking about things like that. How can we make some of our federal government work more effectively? And regardless of who's next in charge, whether it's Republicans or Democrats, I think these agencies need to rethink how they are run so that they are addressing the needs of the American people. The government has its pros and its cons. And certainly, I think as the world has evolved, federal agencies need to evolve as well. Thinking about how to best use technology, how to deliver services to the people who need them. I think that does take work, and I hope it's going on right now.
I hope that there is a plan in place to create Project 2029, just like 2025, where there are experts about every agency and department talking about what it's going to look like. If there is a Project 2029 and you are asked to participate in the chapter on the Department of Justice, what would you like your contribution to be? What change?
Well, I think the most important thing that we have seen is the way President Trump has eroded the independence of the Justice Department. And I would like to see that return. It is critically important that the Justice Department administer the law in an even-handed way, and that it be perceived as administering the law in an even-handed way. Since the Watergate era, the Justice Department has operated independently of the presidency without any direct communication between the White House and the Justice Department on case-related matters. President Trump has absolutely bulldozed through those norms. He's, demanded in social media that the Attorney General go after Jim Comey and Letitia James and Adam Schiff and some of his other enemies. And, Todd Blanche likes to talk about how the Constitution vests all the executive power in the president. Maybe that's true, maybe it's not, but it also directs the president to take care that the laws be faithfully executed. And they cannot be faithfully executed when the president is using the Justice Department to target his political enemies. And so I think creating independence there at the Justice Department is critically important. I would codify some of those norms that were created post-Watergate to try to protect the department from partisan politics. So this communication ban is one, a ban on consideration of partisan politics in charging decisions, and a requirement that before prosecutors seek an indictment, they have evidence sufficient to obtain a conviction at trial, not just enough probable cause to squeak out an indictment. So I think those are some of the changes I would propose to try to restore that independence that I think is so essential to the effective functioning of the Justice Department.
Since we have a president who doesn't seem to care about the rule of law or even laws that are on the books, how would you, if you codified all of this, how would you enforce it? Because I was talking to somebody, they're like, well, you know, I mean, what if Donald Trump defies the courts? Well, if it gets to a policing arm of the courts, you know, that would be the U.S. Marshals. Who controls the U.S. Marshals? The DOJ. I mean, how would you enforce this?
Yeah, so I think there are two ways you could do it. One is you could create a private cause of action for a civil lawsuit by people who are wronged by this. People could file a civil lawsuit to sue the people who committed these things. If somebody were to weaponize the Justice Department, they could file a civil lawsuit. You'd have to give consent to sue the government by overriding sovereign immunity in that instance. But I think an even better one is this, and I talk about this in the book, and that is a congressional statute that moves the U.S. Marshal Service out of the executive branch and under the authority of the Justice Department and moves it over to the judicial branch. As you said, they already are the court security arm. They already are responsible for prisoner movement in the courts. They already have the responsibility to hunt down fugitives. Why not also just put them under the arm of the court and allow them to enforce contempt of court orders? So if a court orders someone to do something or refrain from doing something, and the president and the executive branch says, you've made your order, now who's going to enforce it? They could say the U.S. Marshal is going to enforce it. And if you disobey my court order, I'm going to direct the marshals to put the handcuffs on you and put you in their lockup, which they already have in our courthouse for defendants. I think that could really put some teeth back into the need for the executive branch to obey court orders.
I think that is the most practical solution to this problem that anybody has ever shared on this show. I love that, because it seems like, you know, whenever you think of who's going to hold Trump in check, well, usually it would be the legislative branch. But, you know, he's got a Republican majority in both houses. Now, he may be, that majority in the Senate may be in danger because he has ticked Republican senators off so bad. You know, John Cornyn and Bill Cassidy. Oh, okay. We liked them. What do you mean they're gone? Well, yep, they're gone. Thomas Massey in the House of Representatives as much as threatened Trump in his concession speech. You know, I'm already going to run again in 2028, but also I want you to know that I've got 7 more months in office.
Yes.
I mean, Trump seems to be shooting himself in the foot in a way that sooner or later has to come back and bite him. Don't you think?
I do. And, you know, it's so interesting that only after losing their primaries do some of these Republicans find their spine. But I think that they're speaking out, and it's important. I mean, Bill Cassidy has just in the past couple of days denounced this Iran deal as the greatest foreign policy blunder in decades. So I think that could be important. I think the other thing is that, you know, one of the things I've observed in my work as a prosecutor is that con men, and I think Donald Trump is a con man at his heart, con men eventually self-destruct. And it's because they are unable to return and deliver on the promises that they've made. Donald Trump was elected because people were concerned about the price of eggs. He promised to reduce inflation. It's gone sky high. The prices of a gallon of gas are sky high. He promised no foreign wars. We're at war with Iran. He promised complete release of the Epstein files, and he's got more redactions than text has come out of those things. And so eventually, like all con men, the victims catch on that they didn't get what they were promised. And so ultimately, I think most con men fail on their own accord. But, you know, we don't have to wait for that to happen. We can certainly accelerate that demise by pointing out all of the things that he has failed to deliver on. And I hope that some of these, you know, Republicans or others who have lost their reelection or decided not to run again will use their voices in these next few months. Thomas Massey has even suggested that he might read the redactions of the Epstein files on the House of Congress, where he cannot, you know, he can't be prosecuted under the speech or debate clause. Let's hear it, Thomas Massey. I think that would be a great use of your time.
He has been threatening that for a while, and I'm waiting for him to talk the talk and walk the walk. Don't just, it's almost like I wonder if he's making these threats because behind the scenes, there's something he's trying to negotiate. And that's the stick he's using, because he has said that a number of times. And I'm like, okay, how about today?
Yeah, let's go.
How about tomorrow? Okay, I'm ready. I got my notes.
What are you waiting for?
Yes, exactly.
Well, you may be right. I mean, he may be trying to use it as leverage to coerce some sort of deal. And, using that threat, once he makes good on the threat, then he no longer has that power. Maybe he's taking a page out of Trump's own playbook.
Would you ever want to head the DOJ?
I don't know. I would not want to be so bold as to suggest that. I think there are a lot of wonderful people out there who could do an excellent job. I love public service. I don't love politics. And it's become a very challenging job to be able to walk that fine line. But we do need a strong leader, I think, at the Department of Justice. I liked Merrick Garland personally. I think he's a fine man. I think he was an excellent judge. But I think he might have been the wrong attorney general at that moment.
We needed a prosecutor, not a judge.
Yeah, exactly. I think we needed somebody with a little more urgency to prosecute Donald Trump aggressively. And I think as a result of going very cautiously, they wasted some valuable time. And so they never were able to complete the prosecutions against Donald Trump in sufficient time. I don't think it ever occurred to them in their wildest dreams that Trump could be reelected president again.
Yeah.
And, on January 7th of 2021, I think most of us would have had that same view. But I would like to see somebody in there who has spent their career as a prosecutor, who would be able to, oversee a rigorous investigation and prosecution. And I would like to see the Jack Smith investigations resuscitated. I think they can be, and I think they should be, because just because you were in office 4 years doesn't mean you get away with crimes you committed before entering office.
Well, I think that we're going to need to talk on a regular basis, because I can't imagine that if Todd Blanche gets confirmed, that there isn't going to be. I think Todd Blanche makes Pam Bondi look like a legal scholar. That's my opinion. So I think what we're gonna hear, and if indeed he heads the DOJ, is going to just be jaw dropping. And I hope, Barbara McQuaid, we can talk about all this and more in the future.
I'd love to come back. Thanks a lot, Joan.
And make sure to tell Jill that I asked you about sports.
I will. She'll be pleased.
All righty. We're going to take a break. We're going to be back with more after this. Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT Willow Springs, is powered by ComEd. Find rebates and discounts on energy-efficient products at ComEd.com/home savings.
Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive on WCPT 820.
Okay, it is 3:30. Lady B is reaching out as we speak to David Hochberg. He is going to join us for the next hour. And I want you to write this number down, 773-763-9278. You can call Lady B if you have a question that you want to ask David on the radio, or text in your question. I am going to be scouring the text lines to share your questions with David Hochberg. David, how are you?
I'm great. How you doing?
I am groovy. I'm very groovy. I used to say peachy, but now I'm groovy.
It's fitting. You're a girl of the 70s. You're a woman of the 70s.
Yeah.
I could see you in your bell bottoms and your halter top. I could totally see that.
I still have bell bottoms. I like bell bottoms, and I have some hippie bell bottoms, too, with wild colors. Thank you very much. Ray, as you know, is a musician, and last Saturday? Yes, last Saturday at a club in Arlington Heights, he and his band performed the music of 1967. And I wore my hippie dress and my hippie earrings. It was delightful.
Outstanding.
Yes, it was really a huge amount of fun. Okay, there's so much that I want to talk to you about. Before we get to these other points, question.
Yeah.
You want to buy a place. How do you arrange the deal so that you have the absolute lowest monthly payment you can have?
How do you arrange the deal to get the lowest monthly
what kind of how much down do you put on? What kind of mortgage do you look for?
Yeah.
All that kind of stuff. You want the lowest monthly payment you can get. What are the factors that play into that?
Well, credit score is number one. The type of property is number two. If you buy a condo and put less than 25% down, you've got, depending on your credit score, it could be anywhere from a quarter to a full point adjustment in the interest rate. And then if you're going to go FHA in a condo, you got to make sure that the condo building is FHA approved or get a spot approval, which is a major pain in the neck. Just being financially astute and having a minimum down payment of 3.5% to 5% is really all you need.
I thought you had to have a 20% down payment. Is that a thing of the past?
No. Yeah, it's been a thing of the past for the past 25.11 years that I've been doing mortgages. It's, August 1st will be 26 years. So, yeah, you can get in with as little as 3% down if you qualify the Fannie Freddie loan, 3.5% down with an FHA. You get an USRDA rural loan. If you're in a rural area and qualify, you get a loan for up to, I believe, 103, 105%, where you could roll in the closing costs, which is a fantastic product. And then VA loans, you get in.
You said it depends on what kind of property you buy. How do you know if it's agricultural or rural or where do you find that kind of information out? Would it be on the, let's say you're looking at a place, would it be on the listing agreement? Oh, by the way, this is a rural property.
Yeah, well, most realtors, I'd say, I think it was like 70 or 75% of Illinois, believe it or not, is classified as rural. Outside of the Chicago metropolitan area, Peoria, Springfield, and Bloomington, pretty much the entire state of Illinois falls under. And when you get closer to St. Louis, down in the southwestern area of the state, over 70%, I believe it is rural. We have a rural tracking geo something. I forgot what it's called, but we can plug the address in. It's a public website. It's just slipping my head right now. That you could type the address in and see if your property's in a rural area. And then there's income qualifications and credit score qualifications and all that other stuff. So it's a great program if you're in a rural area. It's through the UNES department. It's through. I said it earlier, I'm having a senior moment here, but it's a rural program, and it's a great program. You can roll your closing costs in and essentially get in with no money down. And VA loans, you can get in with zero down and have the seller pay for your closing cost credit. And with the VA loans, they're great because you have the seller pay for the debt. With the closing cost credit, you could use the closing cost credit to pay off debt to qualify. So a lot of options out there. A lot of options.
Okay,
and it's
but you
a fluid market in Chicago.
You said you don't have to put 20% down, but if I put 3.5% down and have a 30-year fixed rate mortgage, won't my monthly payments be higher than if I put 20% down for that same 30-year mortgage?
Well, sure. Yeah.
Oh,
I mean,
okay, just checking.
If I was,
because I get confused.
Yeah, no, it's math, right? So if I lost 40 pounds, I'd be able to get into like a pair of 32-inch pants, right? So, I mean, it's the same thing, but, thank God they got 38s out there that I can wear jeans, okay? So if you want to, the biggest challenge that our listeners have right now is coming up with money for the down payment and closing costs. That is the biggest challenge because everything's gotten so flipping expensive that the biggest challenge to buy a home is coming up with money for the closing costs and the down payment. I mean those are the two biggest obstacles. And then you've got credit and then you've got income. So, that's where we're at. Okay. And you said that much of Illinois is rural. Can there be like someplace like Vernon Hills? I think of Vernon Hills as kind of semi-rural because there are places that have a lot of acreage and there are some people in Vernon Hills who have horses and this other stuff. So, but I would imagine that there are probably no parts of Evanston that are considered rural, right? Or Vernon Hills, like in the 1970s when you were running around your bell bottoms, Vernon Hills was considered rural. Buffalo Grove, parts of Buffalo Grove in the 70s was rural. You could still see soybean and cornfields in Buffalo Grove in the 70s. How do I know? Because my parents, used to drive us out to Buffalo Grove to look at buying a home when we first moved here from New York. So now there's nothing in Evanston. You have to go the outskirts of Rockford, Belvedere. Parts of Belvedere are rural, and it's weird. You can plug in. It's a geo tracker. That's what it is. Geo tracker. If your listeners want to look, you could Google. I believe it's geo tracker. I've got it saved on my web browser in my favorites, where I just call it up and drop it down and type in addresses, and it comes in. What does it tell you?
You put the address in. What does it tell you?
It tells you if it's a rural property or not. If it qualifies for USDA, that's the loan. USDA is the agency that offers these loans out. And listen, you could have 123 Maple on the north side of the street, not in a rural zone, and 124 Maple on the south side of the street in a rural zone. It's just where the address
and that
lies.
affects the deal that you would get to buy at the mortgage and how everything would work.
Well, yeah, it qualifies you. It enables the borrower, whoever it is, if they meet the other qualifications with income and credit, to qualify to secure a loan with 100 up to, I believe it's 105%, where you can roll your closing costs and prepaids into the loan. You essentially walk in with no money out of your pocket. It's a fantastic loan.
Okie dokie.
Can we talk about second installment real estate taxes?
Well, let's hold that off on that until I get some of these listener questions to you.
No, sure. Go ahead. Sure, go.
To David, since the inflation rate is far above what the Fed's target is there little chance of any rate reductions, or will the rates actually go up even though the Fed is being pressured to lower them? Kevin Warsh pretty much said that. I mean, didn't he kind of imply that he thought maybe rates should go up, David?
Well, here, the Fed Chairman Warsh, right? Mm-hmm. He got his first meeting under his belt yesterday. Pleasantly surprised, right? Everybody thought he was going to be a Trump lackey and cut rates, because that's what our president likes to boast about, cutting rates. And he basically said, listen, inflation is higher than we like. He put a target on it that the Fed would like to see inflation down at 2.0. By the end of 2028. So he's pushed out that target. We had inflation when President Trump took office. I believe it was 2.6%. During the election in November of 2024, it was 2.9%. So I think it was either one or the other two. I think that's right. 2.6% when President Trump took office, and he was going to cut everything and make everything more affordable. And he implemented his tariffs, which jacked the costs up on a bunch of goods and services. And of course, we all know what's going on in the Middle East right now. He bent over and gave Iran the best deal possible and screwed Uncle Sam over. So in the meantime, the past 100 days, we've been paying $4 or $5 gas prices. So that's been putting a ton of pressure on inflation, because that impacts every single thing that we consume. And is there a chance that he raises rates? Sure, there's a very good chance that if the inflation doesn't come down with the gas prices, this Fed and this Fed board, this Fed chairman and the Fed board might elect to increase rates before the end of the year. There's a good possibility of that. So anything's possible, Joan.
I was like you. I was surprised, pleasantly so. I thought that Kevin Warsh as Trump's selection was going to be a rubber stamp. But then, wasn't Jerome Powell, wasn't he also a Trump pick during Trump's first term? So I don't know. Maybe once these people, it was supposed to be that way with the Supreme Court. If you're a judge for life, nobody can influence you or buy you. You're going to be untouchable. Well, it didn't quite work out that way. But same thing with the Fed. Do you think now he feels that he doesn't have to kowtow to anybody?
Well, see, listen, it's one meeting, right? So far, the first meeting, I had high hopes for Treasury Secretary Bessent, right? I thought he was a great choice till he turned into, the captain of the knee pad, polish knob, and Trump club there. So he's been a huge disappointment, and so's Pulte. He's been a huge disappointment.
Oh,
Howard
my God.
Lutnick is just right.
Wait a minute. A huge disappointment in the housing post that he had, or a huge disappointment as head of national intelligence?
Well, he's not there yet. So pending, that disaster will happen tomorrow. But he's been a complete major empty suit as the HUD chair, right? And he could lower. Listen, we've talked about this ad nauseum. FHFA chairperson, he could eliminate the Sandra Thompson loan level price adjusters, and rates would drop between a quarter and a full point with the stroke of a pen. Okay, and he has not done it. There is absolutely zero reason for Sandra Thompson's loan level price adjusters to A, have been implemented in the first place, and B, for them to still be there. Okay, and it's just a travesty. And I've reached out to HUD to get a spokesperson to come on and radio silent. And it's just a joke. It's just I upset one of your fellow radio hosts, audience members. I called Trump a clown show, and it is a clown show. And the other host on the conservative talk show, he asked me, he hosts a morning show. He's like, "Did you actually say this?" I said, "Yeah." He's like, "Why?" I go, "Because it is a clown show, Ray." I go, "It's an absolute clown show." And when our president, no matter what party, does stupid things and turns the office into a clown show, I'm going to call it out. So what I've seen with FHFA chairperson Pulte, it's a clown show, and it is what it is. So yeah, so that's where we're at with. Listen, I've got one meeting under his belt. I thought it was a success, right? And he said all the right things, and we'll see what happens. Everybody that wanted lower rates, your car loans are still the same today as they were yesterday morning. Your credit card rates are still the same today as they were yesterday morning before the meeting. Your home equity line of credits are still the same as they were before yesterday's meeting. And I'll take you back to, I think it was 2024. The Fed chair, they were predicting 4 or 5 rate cuts in 2024, 2025. And everybody on all the radio stations like, "Well, what do you think? What do you think?" I said, "Tell you what, why don't we get to the first one? And then when we get to the first one, we'll take a look at the second one," right? We didn't get to the first rate cut, Joan, until like 3/4 of the year was gone. And I think we only got 1 or 2 that year instead of the 4 or 5 that they were predicting. So listen, we'll take it as we see it. We'll take it as it comes, and we'll talk about it after it happens.
Sounds reasonable to me. David Hochberg and I are going to take a break. He is going to answer all of your questions, though there are also a few topics he wants to make sure we cover before we wrap up this hour. So we will be right back after this.
WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk, where facts matter.
Now back to Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive on WCPT 820.
David Hochberg is here to answer your questions about credit ratings, mortgages, how to get out of tough situations. Carl from Chicago, David, texted in this. "I see many young adults looking for condos as a starter. They're okay with a down payment and monthly mortgage payments, but are turned off by high homeowners associations and no guarantee that they won't continue to go up. Many times these HOAs are almost half a mortgage payment. Buyers don't believe these are realistic charges." Your comment?
Don't buy in a condo that's got high association dues. I mean, what do you want me to tell you, right?
Well, didn't you also say that people should look into like how much money they have as a reserve, like in case the roof falls in or something?
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, you should always look at the strength of the condo association, right? When you're buying anything, and if the condo association is weak or it's got a special assessment, then don't buy in that condo building. I mean, it's really that simple. The costs are not going down. All the costs are going up. The insurance has gone up. If you've got like a front door man, if you got 24-hour security, that's going to cost you money. If you've got elevators, anything that moves in the building, elevators or loading docks or stuff like that, that's all going to cost you money. So I think Carl is the guy's name. What do I think? Don't buy in a building that's got high condo fees, or if you're going to buy in a high rise, you're going to have. Listen, my nephew is buying in a condo in the South Loop. Okay, $700 a month for a condo association on a $400,000 two-bedroom condo. Now, $500,000 two-bedroom condo in the South Loop. $700 a month for condo association dues. But listen, do I think it's crazy? Yeah. Would I buy in that building? No. Yeah. But that's what's close to his work, and it's close to the train. It's close to the bus, and it is what it is. If you don't like the high condo association dues, don't buy in the building. Buy something else.
We have another text with somebody asking a question, but before I tell you the question, the person who texted in mentions something called a key lock. Explain to me what that is before I ask you the actual question.
Yeah, it's what we talk about all the time. Home equity line of credit, checkbook against your house that I strongly recommend that our listeners get in case of emergencies. So it's there when they never thought they needed it. I'll give you a perfect example. A buddy of mine lives in a home free and clear, $700,000 home in Northbrook, around the corner from me. Everything was going great. He had a $240,000 HELOC, lost his job. Calls me up. He's like, "Hey, I'd like to increase the amount of the HELOC." I'm like, "All right, well, what are you doing? Are you still working at this company? Still making this money?" The last time he did it, no. He's like, "I lost my job in January, and my severance package is running out at the end of July, and I want to take out a bigger HELOC, so I have it until I finalize my new compensation package with the job that I'm interviewing for. Hopefully I'll get then the next 3 to 4 weeks." So there's a perfect example, right? I told the guy at the time to take out a HELOC up to 80% of the value of his house because that's what he qualified for. And he only took out $50,000, right? Now he lost his job. Now he needs access to extra money. Now he doesn't have a job. Now he wants access to more money, and he can't get it until he gets a job. So I kind of know what I'm talking about, listeners. The best time to get a HELOC is when you don't need a HELOC.
Because she said key lock, and I thought maybe key lock was something that was different. Okay.
No, there's I guarantee you 99.9%.
Okay.
Texture
well, then let me ask you her question.
Yeah.
I'm a 71-year-old woman. I've paid off my house. I'm still working part-time, and I'm looking to retire. What would you suggest, a reverse mortgage or a HELOC, not a key lock?
Yes. No, it's a great question. I love reverse mortgages, and I love HELOCs, right? The best thing about the HELOC – yep, thanks, bud. Sorry, I got a little sandwich here. The best thing about the HELOC is it's interest only. It's easy to qualify for if you have equity in your home and you want to make a mortgage payment, right? So basically what you're doing with the HELOC is you're going to use the HELOC to make the payment of the money that you're taking out. Great thing about the reverse mortgage is it's a lot more expensive than a HELOC, but it has a cost of living adjuster where it's going to increase in value 4 to 5% a year, maybe even more depending upon your margin. The payment, you're going to get a mortgage statement every single month. You don't have to make a payment if you don't want to. That's hence the reason why it's called a reverse mortgage. You're never going to have to pay it if you don't want to. All the money that comes out is tax-free, and it's a great safety net to extend your assets. A lot of our listeners right now have either outlived their assets or about to outlive their assets and need extra help around the house, and in-home health care can cost you $6,000 to $12,000 a month. So
what happens if you take out a reverse mortgage and you live really long? This woman's 71. What if she lives to 101? Surely the value of her house will be zero.
No, I wouldn't necessarily agree with that, but that's your assessment. What happens? she gets to live in her house until she either passes away or sells it. It's her home until she either expires or she sells her home. If her home is worth more when she expires, the debt goes with her into the grave or into the urn. Okay, it doesn't get passed down to your relatives. And if your relatives want to buy the house at the time, they can buy the house at 95% of the current market value. Okay, so the people that are listening right now who bought homes for $40,000, $50,000 40 years ago, and they're now worth $700,000, $800,000, never thought their homes would be worth $700,000, $800,000, $1 million today. Okay, so you're making the assessment that, or the assumption that her home is not going to be worth anything, and I'm making the assumption that, based upon my almost 26 years of experience in the real estate industry, that her home is going to continue to increase in value slightly over the next however long she lives. So I love reverse mortgages. I think they're fantastic. I've gotten more calls in the past 6 months for reverse mortgages because of the reasons that I just stated. Our listeners are outliving their assets. Our listeners' kids are calling because their parents will not move out of their house under any way, shape, or form, and they are going to be taken out feet first. And they refuse to move into assisted living, and they, listen, that's fine. And they need assisted, some assistance in the home. My good friend, and the only reason I'm going to talk about it is because I talked about it on my show. My good friend Stephen A. Leahy. His mother took out a reverse mortgage. She fought with me. God bless her. I love her. Okay, she fought with me for years. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. And then one day we came, and she's like, Dave, I need a reverse mortgage. Guess what? She owns a 4-unit building right behind the Chop House on Ontario. Okay, across from Hard Rock Cafe, on the other side of that. She bought that building like 30 years ago. It's now worth over 7 figures because it's in River West. Okay, just because it's in River West, right by Portillo's over there and the Walgreens. Okay, her backyard is the Walgreens over there off of Ontario, across from the McDonald's and Portillo's. Okay, she's got a $1 million home. Okay, and people would call into my show and say, why didn't she just move? And Steve's like, it's my mother. She ain't moving. She doesn't want to move. That's my mom. Yeah. Okay, and why should my mom move when she's happy living in her house that she bought 30, 40 years ago for a couple $100,000? It's now worth over 7 figures. So, there's other people out there like, oh, reverse mortgages are terrible. And my response is, stay in your lane, okay? Let the experienced homeowner make the decision and let the kids make the decision to help the experienced homeowner, their parents, or in one case, I just got a call from one of your listeners, his 84-year-old aunt, okay? 84-year-old aunt was coming out of an assisted living facility because she had some back surgery. Owned her $600,000 home free and clear. Was no way, shape, or form was this lady going into an assisted living facility. So guess what? Help them secure a reverse mortgage so she could bring in-home health care is going to cost this lady $6,000 to $8,000 a month, right? She didn't need the overnight. She just needed somebody to help her get out of bed, wash up, make a couple of meals, get the meds, and she'd be able to handle her activity and then come back at night to make sure she was safely put into bed and got into her bed safely, right? That was costing this guy $6,000 to $8,000 a month. Guess what? The reverse mortgage solves that challenge.
Wow.
Okay. It gives them plenty of liquidity out of her home, out of his aunt's home to manage those unbelievably expensive costs to make sure that she was safe. I love them. I think they're fantastic.
I'm talking with David Hochberg. He is answering your questions. We have more questions. We're going to take a break for news, but we will be back right after this. Text me if you have a question.
Hey, where's Hal Sparks? I'm not sure where he is now, but I know where you can find him Saturdays at 11. He'll be right here on WCPT 820 for the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide. This is WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive.
Quite frankly, I get most of my news from you.
Joan Esposito.
Y'all ready for this?
On WCPT 820.
David Hochberg is here to answer your questions which you can text in at 773-763-9278. Okay, David, this question. Do HELOCs have a minimum?
Yes, typically most lenders will only won't do less than $10,000. So a home equity line of credit is usually the minimum is $10,000. Every bank, it's a portfolio loan, so every bank's got their own levels, but I haven't seen one that goes below $10,000.
Okay. Next question, and I'm going to paraphrase this question a little bit. Does David work with the little guys or just really important people like Joan Esposito?
Well, that's what's the definition of a little guy, right? I work with anybody that needs help with a loan. Doesn't matter how big or small your loan is. If you need help or not, if you need a mortgage or not, I give more free information than any other mortgage professional in the city, if not like the 4 or 5 state region. I'm trying to help as many listeners as possible with whatever challenge they have, credit, housing, mortgage. Tell more listeners not to refinance with their current servicer because it's not in their best interest. There's a lot of servicers out there, the company that you write your mortgage payment to, blowing up our listeners' phones right now that are in the low to mid sixes. Hey, it's a great time to refinance, and it's not. It's a great time for the servicer to have you refinance because they're going to jam down your throat like $10,000, $15,000 in closing costs, which makes absolutely no sense. And I work with everybody, Joan. It doesn't matter how big or small, your loan is. I'll help whoever wants to give me a call.
And I want you to go over something you have explained before. Like, you've refinanced me a couple of times. I have a ridiculously low mortgage rate, but that doesn't mean anything if there's a place that I want to move to. What matters is the amount of money I'm paying every month, the closing costs. I mean, if you want to get me into a 30-year fixed with a 10% rate and my monthly costs are manageable, then does it really matter? I'm saying that very badly, David. Please straighten us up.
No. It's not about. It's always about the monthly payment. It's not about the rate. It's about the monthly payment. And even though we got lucky during COVID, and your current loan starts with a 2, if you sold your place, you've gained and so has everybody. I mean, everybody that's listening has gained an unbelievable amount of equity over the past 5 years since COVID because of the lack of inventory, and your home is worth more, which means you're going to walk away with more money out of your home, greater equity buildup, which is going to then enable you to put down a larger down payment on a new home. And obviously that new home that you're buying has increased in value. But again, it comes down to the payment, comes down to the lifestyle. Okay, you've got some listeners right now that are in a 3,000 to 4,000, 5,000 square foot home with 2% mortgages that are so low with their taxes and insurance. Even if they did sell and move someplace else, it still wouldn't make sense. And then you've got some listeners that have made so much money that don't want to live in a 4,000 square foot single family house, go up and down the stairs and have to do the snow and deal with the grass and walk out to get the mail at the end of the driveway and bring the garbage cans out and all of that mishigas. It's what your quality of life is. There's no one size fits all. And you might have. I saw a video. I just posted something today. There was a guy, great follow, QE Infinity on X. He's fantastic, and he posted a video of a lady in her 30s or 40s. Looked like she was sitting on the floor of her home, and she said in her video, "I don't want to own a house anymore. It's not for me. Yeah, my rate's in the 2s. I don't want to do any maintenance. The costs keep going up. And I'm just going to sell my home and rent, and that's what's best for me." And there were people, and I made the comment, hey, you know what? This is a great move for her because she doesn't want to do all of the things anymore, right? She doesn't want to maintain the house. Things are getting more expensive. And I said, good for her. And I said, unless you're willing to go over to her home to fix everything that needs to be fixed and donate money to a fund that she could afford to make all of the to cover all their costs, you should stay in your lane and worry about yourself, right? I thought it was a nice open-ended comment. 95% of the people liked it and gave thumbs up or hearts, whatever you do on X. And then I had one jerk off like, yeah, you know what? You don't know what you're talking about. And, she shouldn't rent and she's going to have a payment when she rents and she'll never see that rate again. I'm just like, she's a grown woman making a decision that's best for her and her family. Well, you know what? If, if she said eating ice cream 3 times a week was great, that's not healthy either. I'm just like, you know what? Thank you very much for your comment. Go play in traffic. I don't know what people want, right? So in some cases, Joan, selling a house and renting is fantastic, even though you got a great rate like this lady did, because it's best for you and your family, whatever your situation is. There's no one size fits all with real estate.
David, that makes a lot of sense, and I appreciate that answer. Let me see if we have any new comments. Okie dokie. All right. I'm going to try to get in one more before we take a break. Hi, Joan and David. Also enjoy the Sweet Home radio show, which is on another radio network every, Saturday morning for 2 hours?
3 hours, Joan. Don't discount it. Saturday, 10 until 1 on a station that rhymes with WGN. But, yeah, so...
Okay. Question now. To purchase an investment house as rental property isn't, I don't understand this, isn't that house potential market rental dollar value added to the applicant's other income when applying to buy this home? If you say I'm buying this as an investment to rent, does that change the parameters?
Well, sure, because then you could count the rental income as part of your income, right, in order to qualify for the home. If it's a multi-unit building, the underwriters and the agencies like you to have at least 1 year experience or other experience managing a multi-unit property, right? So, like if you're walking into a 4-unit building and you're going to live in one and rent out the other 3. What this texter was saying, can you use, I'm assuming what this texter saying is, can you use the other 3 units income that you're going to be getting because you're going to theoretically rent it out, or they're currently being rented out when you buy them? Can you use that income for qualifying when you buy the place? The answer is yes, if you have previous rental experience as a landlord. Now, if you are renting out your current home, right, if you sign a lease for Tom and Sally to rent out your current home when you move to another place, then you could count that because it's only a 1-unit property, and you could count that rent for income. You could only use it to offset the housing payment, though, of the house that you're leaving, right? So if you're getting $3,000 a month for rent and your housing payment's only $1,500, you can only count the rent against to wipe out your current payment of $1,500 for qualifying for a new house, which should be more than enough in most cases that I've seen to qualify for the new house. As long as you're eliminating the payment of the current house, which is 90% of the battle, it's easy to qualify for a new house. Long answer to a short question.
David Hochberg and I are going to take a break. We're going to be back with more after this.
You're listening to WCPT 820 because facts matter.
Don't turn that dial. Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive, returns right now.
A fair balance where the facts come out.
On WCPT 820.
And David Hochberg is here to answer your questions for another 15 minutes. David, I know that you have gone in front of the Cook County Board to personally invite at least Tony Preckwinkle, if not other board members, to be on your show to explain why the property tax bills in Cook County continue to be delayed and messed up. Everybody always says it's a computer problem, it's a software problem, but it's been going on for a very, very long time. Has there been any progress in that?
Well, according to Tony Preckwinkle, our esteemed Cook County Board President, who was just reelected in February, in her own words, she backslapped herself and said that the tax bills will be out on time. That's a direct quote from her. And we got the first ones out on time, which they always go out on time. So you got your February tax bill that was due in March, so in Cook County. And then lo and behold, last week after the election, she said in February, prior to the election, that the tax bills everything's fixed and everything will go out on time. I'm paraphrasing. And then lo and behold, Joan, last week said esteemed President Tony Preckwinkle just announced that the tax bills will be delayed again for either the fourth time in 5 years or the fifth time in 6 years. I've lost count. We got rid of Fritz Kagi, that disaster, voted him out. We got Patrick Hines coming in, thank God. So the clown show with Fritz Kagi is done and over with after the next election in 140 some days. We're back to delayed tax bills. It'll be delayed two to 3 months. Yeah, I'm telling you right now, I'm taking the over, like it always is. Probably tax bills won't get out. I'd be shocked if they're out before Thanksgiving, which what does that do? Yet again, pushes the tax bill back for homeowners in Cook County to have to pay the tax bill at the end of the year. What does that do for residents thinking of selling their home? So if you're selling your home in Cook County, I'm giving you the heads up right now that the title company is going to hold back what's called a tax indemnification because we don't have the ability to get Tyler Technologies does not have the ability. I looked it up. It was like a $240 million company. I think that's what their net worth was. No, I'm sorry. It's like a $13 to $15 billion company. Their stock traded last week at like $230 some a share. Okay. And my whole thing is I'm scorched earth. On my show last week, this past weekend, I gave out the 800 number for Tyler Technologies. And I encourage everybody respectfully to call Tyler Technologies and ask them respectfully. Don't go off on a tirade. Just ask them, hey, as a Cook County tax-paying resident, I'd like to know why we gave you a bunch of money in 2015. I think it was like $6 million or something like that. For software that was supposed to be delivered in 2018 to completely revamp the entire Cook County tax system to make things better. And it's 2026, 8 years later, and we still don't have the software working. How come a $13 billion company with a B, Joan, $13 billion company can't send programmers to Chicago, to Cook County to fix our problem? Okay. We're a bastard stepchild, a red-haired mule out in the pasture, and they keep dumping on us. Okay, so I'm going full scorched earth. I'm giving out their phone number. It was like 800 something on my show every single week. I'm giving it out. I'm going to the county board meeting.
Is it their fault? I mean, is the software broken, or is it not being administered and used correctly?
Something's broken. Okay, if it wasn't broken, we'd have the tax bills out on time. It would be issued in July to be paid August 1st. Okay, so it's been effed up for 4 out of the 5 years, or 5 out of the 6 years. I've lost count. It's been so screwed up. And I'm just telling you right now, if you're going to sell your home, you are walking away with less money because the title company is going to hold back a greater percentage of the tax proration that you have to give to the buyer because the title company does not know how much money they need to hold back for your taxes because the tax bill is not out. So everybody's selling a house in Cook County.
June. How long? When are the tax bills supposed to come out this year? Don't they come out in the fall?
Supposed to come out in July, due in August.
Okay.
February and August, okay? So our esteemed president said, a couple of months late. So now you're at September, October. Okay, I'm taking the over. Okay, because you always take the over with Cook County.
Okay, so you have a house you want to sell, and you get an offer that's fabulous in Cook County for September, and you don't have that property tax bill yet. And how does that affect the closing?
I'll tell you what it means. So let's say that you think that you're going to walk away with $20,000 from the sale of your house. Okay? So that's and you're going to use that $20,000 for the down payment on your new house. Okay, so far so good.
Yeah.
All right. They were going to cover the $10,000 tax proration out of the $20,000 that you were going to walk away with. But since they don't know what the tax is, instead of holding back 10, they're going to hold back $20,000 from you. So instead of walking away in this example with $20,000 for the down payment of your new house that you got qualified, putting down $20,000, you're only going to be walking away with $10,000 from the sale of your house until the flipping tax bills come out. So if you're selling your house and you think you're walking away with a certain amount of money in Cook County, in the county that can't get their tax bills out on time, because of Tyler Technologies, a $13 billion company, okay, you're going to have to buy your new home with less money down because you're not going to be walking away with the money that you think you're walking away with from the sale of your home. To make it worse, if and when rates drop at the end of the year, and you go to refinance, you've got to put up double your tax bill when you refinance. Same thing. So it makes it more difficult for people in Cook County, homeowners in Cook County, to refinance because you're going to have to bring in more money to the closing to offset that as well. So this is just it just pisses me off. Okay, it just absolutely frosts me. In February on CBS News on tape, right, or on digital, whatever the hell it is now, she said that everything's good, everything's fixed right before the election. And then 3 months outside the election, right, we're back at it again. Same old, dirty politics. The only good news is this: there is a fund that is from what my I'm up in Northbrook here, Northfield Township. I forgot the guy's name. He's my commissioner, and I'm friends with Bill Lowry, who's a good guy there too. My commissioner, I'm having senior moment here, Joan. I apologize. He told me that there's a fund that they will lend to municipalities and school boards because they got roasted by local municipalities and school boards that had to dip into their emergency fund the past 4 or 5 years because they were running out of money and they had to fund their organizations. Okay, there is a fund now that the local municipalities, I guess, if you get more than Scott, what the hell's his name? Scott, first name Scott. He told me that if the local municipality is getting greater than 50% of their revenue from real estate taxes, that they can get a 0% loan, a tax-free, a interest-free loan from the county, that there's a bank out there that's loaning them based upon future tax receipts. And I asked him, I'm like, why didn't you have that available last year? And he's like, there were too many restrictions, and we removed the restrictions and made it easier for the municipalities to get money. So last year and the years prior, all the local municipalities that relied on tax revenue, real estate tax revenue, which is like 100% of them, to survive, had to dip into emergency funds. The poor mayor, I think, of Homewood or Flossmoor came in hat in hand. She's like, we're running out of money at the county board meeting. So it's just a clown show, Joan. Shouldn't be happening. 5.2 million people in Cook County, and we can't figure out or hold the company accountable. Okay, 13 or $16 billion company, Tyler Technologies. So I started giving out their phone number, and I should have brought it for your show. 800 something, and just blast them. Just blast their phones. Be respectful when you call in, and just ask them. And let's lock down their phones until they fix our tax system here. It's ridiculous. So that's how I feel.
Is that how you feel?
Thank you for letting. That's how I feel.
You're very, very welcome. And it does. I don't know. I've not had a business that bought software, but it does seem, even to me, that this has been going on longer than it should, and I'm very puzzled. And I think that our government, if there's a good reason, be transparent about it. We had all these people come in. They worked on the software for 2 months. They just left. They told us everything was great, and now it's not. So we have to get them back again. Just tell us what's going on. Telling us it's fixed and then it's not fixed doesn't inspire a lot of confidence.
Yeah, well, there is no confidence. So I'll be going down to another board meeting, whenever the next board meeting is, and expressing my feelings to Tony Preckwinkle.
And I look forward to seeing that video that you post on social media of that conversation. David, thank you so much. I really appreciate your being here and answering everybody's questions. For those of you who texted in, thank you so much. David is always very generous with his time for us and our listeners. And he always lets us know of what's going on in the bigger picture and how we might get involved in that. And I'm guessing that maybe the phone number for this place is something you'll mention on that Saturday show you do?
Yep, that Saturday show, 10 to 1 on the station that rhymes with WGN Radio. And Ray, I want to thank your better half, Ray. He sent me pictures of you in that sundress. You look fantastic. I just want to let you know he texted it to me while during the last commercial break. So big shout out to Ray.
I don't know what you're talking about. And I'm going to have us talk with that. I don't know what picture he sent you. Young Ray McKenzie is going to be taken to task. But thank you. Thank you for saying it looked nice. All right.
Thank you for having me and allowing me to share my knowledge with your listeners.
And we appreciate that. We're going to take a break. We're going to be back with more Heartland Signal stuff right after this. Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT Willow Springs, is powered by ComEd. Visit ComEd.com/facility assessment to learn more about energy savings.
Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive on WCPT 820.
We have a digital arm, a website, heartlandsignal.com, and we do a lot of reporting on that website that doesn't necessarily make it to the airwaves of WCPT. So we have asked one of the Heartland Signal's most experienced reporters, Rich Eberwein, to join us every Thursday to bring us some of the stories on Heartland Signal that we may have missed. Rich is here now. Hey, Rich, how you doing?
Hey, Joan. Always good to hear from you. How are you doing today?
I am doing peachy. Now, I gave you a big buildup that you're like one of the best reporters for Heartland Signal. So don't let us down. Wow us. What have you got?
I'll surely do my best. We're starting over in Ohio. U.S. Senator John Husted, we wrote about this week. So the senator was hit with an ethics complaint over one of his top staffers, who reported that he was collecting payments from a Columbus lobbying firm that he was also working for at the same time he was working in Senator Husted's office. The complaint was filed by an Ohio attorney to the Senate Ethics Committee, and it claims that Husted and his staffer, Sean Dunn, have violated one of the Senate rules, Senate Rule 37, which prohibits lawmakers and their staff from collecting income from lobbying firms because it is a conflict of interest with their public service responsibilities. Lobbying firms obviously work to influence lawmakers and policy in Washington. So the conflict there is that this is a person who is collecting a salary for working in John Husted's office as a public servant, while also...
So the argument is that it wasn't that he worked for a lobbying company before he joined the staff, but while he was getting a paycheck as a staff member?
Correct. Yeah, and one of Husted's top advisors as well. And he earns $22,000 from this lobbying firm in 2025 alone, while, working for Senator Husted. The Husted's office claims that Dunn has remained in communication with the Senate Ethics Committee and that there is nothing additional for him to do on his part. The complaint wants an investigation into Husted's office, into potentially breaking these Senate rules. So we will see where that goes.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see what shakes out from that, because what if I worked for a lobbying firm and then was hired to work in Husted's office, and, a lot of times people pay you belatedly for work you've already done. Do we have any idea if that was the case?
We do not. All we know is that this was covering the fiscal year 2025, and this is why the attorney wanted to file an ethics complaint and conduct this investigation to see if there's, anything, if they were overlapping, right? We'll see what happens. The Senate Ethics Committee has a pretty bad track record of delivering disciplinary action.
Do they?
They do. And a January investigation conducted by Notice, they published this in January that the Senate Ethics Committee, the 2,000 complaints it has considered since 2007, has failed to deliver disciplinary action for any of them.
Oh.
So
that's not really something they're terribly worried about.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it. But, just another example of potential example of Houston, just having these shady ties to things. Obviously, we've reported on his connections to the First Energy bribery scandal as well in the past. So, his potential, or his opponent, former U.S. Senator Sherrod Brown, republished this, and basically in his statement he said, instead of fighting to make life more affordable for Ohioans, Houston's team is working for corporations that are, quote, screwing you over. This could be a thing that Sherrod Brown attacks him on as the Senate race gets closer in November. Houston is also slipping in the polls to Sherrod Brown. So.
Well, and at the very least, bringing this to light might change the Senate Ethics Committee's apathy.
I hope so. That's not a good track record.
No.
I would hope that the oversight there improves. If there's a place that needs more oversight, it's Washington. It's Congress. So, we will see. We'll hopefully have updates as that story comes along. But the second one has to do with Representative Derek Van Orden up in Wisconsin.
Oh, boy. I love a good Derek Van Orden story.
Another fan favorite around here.
Yep.
So we found that dating back to July 2024, just about 2 years ago, Derek Van Orden, who sits on the House Agriculture Committee and 2 of its subcommittees, he has missed 10 out of the 22 Agriculture Committee and subcommittee hearings since July of 2024, which is almost half. Van Orden, he's a guy who's repeatedly pledged not to leave farmers behind, and that agriculture is his, quote, true love. And his attendance seems to paint a different picture there. And some of these meetings that he missed directly addressed the financial crisis that domestic farmers have been enduring for years at this point, but have been accelerating since Trump's second term, specifically in Van Orden's state. Farm bankruptcies skyrocketed by 700% in 2025. And meanwhile, Derek Van Orden was skipping out on committee hearings that directly addressed the economic crisis in farm country.
Does he have a good excuse, or shall I say, does he have any excuse?
So in a statement, a spokesperson from his office told me that his busy schedule is to blame for his absences, and that members of Congress
busy doing something other than his job, I take it.
In some cases, possibly. For 2 of these 10, she pointed me towards his conflicts with committee hearings for the House Veterans Affairs Committee, which were legitimate, but they did not provide an alibi, I guess, for the other 8 committee hearings that he missed, many of which he was in Washington, D.C. for, because on the same days he was voting, the voting records in Congress show that he voted on the House floor, and so was there in Washington, D.C., and just did not show up to some of these meetings. And, one of the other things that Van Orden's been doing is supporting a lot of the Trump administration's policies that are contributing to this financial crisis that farmers are enduring, like the sweeping tariffs, which are driving up the price of a lot of farm commodities like fertilizer and equipment. And Van Orden also has supported the Iran war and voted to continue allowing President Trump to wage it without congressional approval, And economic experts are pointing toward the fact that the war has significantly increased the cost of fertilizer and fuel for farmers. Of
course,
so further squeezing them when we're already seeing a rapid acceleration of farm bankruptcies, and specifically in Van Orden's state of Wisconsin as well.
And I was reading where there were, when this oil situation started and fertilizer was put at risk, I read that there were some farmers that were contemplating whether or not they should even plant this year because there wasn't much point if they couldn't fertilize.
Yeah, it's very bad. The domestic farms are in a very precarious situation, and the very people who are supposed to be legislating and doing more to help American farmers are people like Van Orden, and he was skipping out on those duties for quite a bit of time. As recently as last week, he missed a committee hearing. So,
let's hope people remember that when it's time to elect somebody to that seat.
We shall see. We will find out. It's a toss-up district that he represents up in Wisconsin, I believe the 3rd Congressional District. So we will find out in November on that, Joan.
Yes, indeed, we will. I am still amazed that he's even a member of Congress, but that's a story for another day.
Indeed. So the last story had to do with Democrats over in Michigan. The Michigan State Senate, they introduced and passed a series of bills that they call the Michigan Voting Rights Act, which are aimed at strengthening voting access and protections. This is a package of bills that they introduced during the last session in 2024. And at the time, they cited fears that the U.S. Supreme Court would chip away or take protections away from the Federal Voting Rights Act. And now they're reintroducing it and passed it in the state Senate after the Supreme Court did just that a couple months ago with the Louisiana v. Kelly decision. And so we have a clip of State Senator Darren Camilleri introducing these bills and describing what they will do.
We cannot wait for a divided Congress or a hostile Supreme Court to save us. Like we did after the Dobbs decision in 2022, Michigan must step up and fill the void. Senate Bills 961 through 964 are our state-level insurance policy for our democracy. This package will ban voter intimidation and suppression, expand language access for Arabic and Spanish speakers in communities like Canton and Coldwater, empowers voters with disabilities with clear remedies to challenge inaccessible voting spaces, requires local governments to provide notice before making key structural changes to voting infrastructure, and creates a nonpartisan voter institute to ensure our state's election data is driven by facts, not by conspiracy theories. In recent years, Michigan has caught the eyes of the nation by leading on nonpartisan redistricting and reproductive freedom. Today, we have the obligation to lead again. The Supreme Court has done its damage. The federal government will not act. Today, in Michigan, we can. And today, Michigan, we must. I urge my colleagues to stand up for every Michigander's right to vote, and please vote yes on the Michigan Voting Rights Act. Thank you.
Well, I regularly talk to Christopher Armitage, who does a Substack called The Existentialist Republic, and one of the ideas that he has been returning to over and over again is that with the federal government basically coming apart at the seams, particularly with Supreme Court rulings, it is up to the states to legislate the things that they used to count on being legislated at the federal level. I mean, I think this is a great idea.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it just shows where, specifically in this case, the Michigan Democrats, but could obviously be replicated in other states as well, but where their priorities are, and that is combating that these decisions that are being passed down by the federal Supreme Court and lack of action by the federal Congress to do anything about it to protect voting access and voting rights. And this passed in the Michigan State Senate, which is controlled by Democrats, and it passed on party lines. Every Republican in the chamber voted against it. which doesn't bode well because the Republicans also control the state House of Representatives in Michigan, and it would need approval there before it can go to the governor's desk. This is like so far been a just split party lines issue. The Republicans have shown no willingness to even discuss this. So I think this just highlights the fact that, we talk about this a lot, Joan, but like all these elections matter, especially in a state like Michigan, a toss-up state where, the margins of majority are thin in both of those chambers, and they could easily flip either way in November. And the consequences of that could be the difference between a package of bills like this protecting voting access and voting rights becoming law or not, and people having the right to vote in some cases. So it's very consequential, and obviously the governor's race matters too a lot as far as this legislation goes. If a Republican governor gets elected in the state of Michigan, it's unlikely that these bills would pass. So this is just I think one of the things that the Michigan Democrats are kind of highlighting, like, hey, this is what we want to do if we get our trifecta back, which they had for 2 years, and were not able to get this package of bills across the finish line at that time, but will undoubtedly do that if they get a trifecta again next year.
Yeah, and this is really important. This is whether or not, I always hate it when legislators say, well, we're not going to do that thing because there's no hope of getting it passed. But just the idea, even if you know something is not going to pass, the fact that you do it, that you talk about it, that it gets attention, that it's reported in the media, you can post about it on social media, it focuses people's attention on this issue. And that is so important.
Yeah, absolutely. And it just shows where each legislator lies on that issue, especially if there is a vote on this in one of the chambers, right? And that's exactly what happened this week in the state Senate. All the Republicans showed where they stand on this. They do not want to expand or protect the
And now we've
access.
got that on the record, and that makes a great thing to campaign about.
Absolutely.
Well, you know what? You know what you did? You ended on a high note, Rich. Did you plan that out? Because I always tell Rich Eberwein that no matter what the stories are, I want him to end on something that gives us a little bit of hope, a little bit of reason to live another day. And sometimes I must tell you people, he ignores me. But I think today he has come through and come through beautifully.
I appreciate that, Joan. And yes, I made sure this was the last story we talked about. I wanted to end on the high note for you. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I hope everybody else did as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Eberwein. We look forward to talking again next week.
All right. I'll talk to you then, Joan.
We are going to take a break. We're going to be back with more after this.
Alexa, play WCPT.
WCPT from TuneIn.
Hey, it's Joan Esposito, and I want to tell you about 120 Life. 120 Life is a drink made with ingredients that support healthy blood pressure. My mom had high blood pressure for her entire adult life. She always took medicine, and for many of us, high blood pressure runs in the family. 120 Life is a great-tasting fruit and vegetable drink designed to improve blood pressure. Put it to the test for a couple of weeks. Check your blood pressure. See if it works for you. Some people reported results in as little as 2 weeks, and I've been enjoying 120 Life because it is a fruit drink that isn't overly sugary. To try it, go online to 120life.com. That is 120life.com. If your high blood pressure doesn't come down in 2 weeks, you can get a full refund, and you can get a 20% discount on your order. Use the code JOAN, Joan, for 20% off your order. These statements have not been approved by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Now back to Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive on WCPT 820.
Remember how we watched last week waiting for Donald Trump's name to come off the Kennedy Center. It was supposed to happen on Friday. People were standing around. They were cheering. Workers put up a scaffolding, and then it started to rain, and everybody went home. Well, at about 3:45 in the morning, workers came back. They put up a huge tarp covering both the Kennedy and Trump name. And behind that tarp, they took down the Donald Trump name. Okay, fine. Maybe they, and the tarp stayed up for the weekend. And I thought to myself, well, maybe Trump it's his birthday weekend. Maybe he doesn't want to have to deal with that humiliation. But you know what? The tarp is still up. If you see pictures, the tarp is done in such a way that the doors, there's a little opening for the doors, but the tarp completely covers the name for the center. Some people have speculated that Donald Trump is going to make the Kennedy Center lawyers go back to court to insist that the tarp be taken down. There is a gentleman by the name of Matt Floca, who is the Trump choice to be CEO of the Kennedy Center. By the way, Matt Floca worked at the Kennedy Center before. He was the center's facilities operations manager. I guess that means he was in charge of making sure the doors don't stick and the toilets flush. Anyway, he was Trump's choice to become the CEO of the Kennedy Center. And here is a post that came from one of the attorneys who's been keeping an eye on this whole thing, a Cultural Heritage Partners attorney by the name of Greg Werkheiser. And he posted this about the tarp that remains up. Blocking the signage more than temporarily would be contrary to Matt Floca's sworn assurances to the court that there would be no substantial alterations to the exterior of the building. We cannot imagine he wants to return to court to explain himself. Well, so far, the tarp is still up, even though the Trump name is down. Stay tuned, because sooner or later, that tarp has to come down. I'm not advocating this, but honestly, I have to tell you, I'm a little bit surprised that in the middle of the night, people haven't just snuck in and taken it down. I guess there are security guards, and apparently people have decided it's not worth being arrested or shot for this, and that if they just wait, even if it means going back to court, that eventually the tarp will come down. One of the excuses they gave was that, removing the Donald Trump name damaged the marble and there has to be repairs. But everybody who has reported on this said these repairs can be made regardless of whether or not there's a tarp. Nobody needs a tarp to make these repairs. Okay? So, kind of makes it sound like they don't really buy that excuse. I have a feeling that this is going to end up back in court again. What do you think? What do you think? Couldn't happen to a nicer group of people. I do hope that they are, and it's taking it back to court is just going to embarrass anybody and make it a big story all over again. I don't understand how they see that as a plus. Anyway, join me tomorrow. One of the people I am going to be speaking to is Brian Endless. He's from Loyola University, a political science professor. We are going to be talking about the events of the week with Professor Endless. And that will be doing it for me today. Driving it home with Patty Vasquez is next. Chris Jones is going to be her guest co-host. Come on, Joan. Just a few more minutes. Hang in there. Rodney Gibbs, who's our executive director for Heartland Signal, is going to be there. Rick Smith is going to be there from the Rick Smith Show. And that will be an interesting conversation. You'll find out all the things that are going on with Heartland Signal. Tomorrow morning at 6 a.m., Richard, of course, will have Karen Byrne of the True Blue podcast. And he's also going to talk to Sean Smith and Sean Smith Pierce and Jody Hamilton of the Politics Bar. I have not heard that show yet, but Ray listens to it, and he said it is terrific. Jody Hamilton came from Stephanie Miller, but now she and Sean have their own show. And again, it gets 4 stars from Raymond McKenzie. That's my best rating. Okay. Have a great evening, my friends. Take care of yourself. Find something fun to do and start planning what you're going to do over the weekend that brings you joy. I will see you tomorrow at 2 p.m. Good night.